Hello, ladies. Let's perch. Welcome to another episode of the She's Free to Fly podcast. And today we have the pleasure of just meeting a beautiful woman who loves women, who loves the heart of women, who supports the heart of women. A lot of you all have been hearing about this wellness retreat that I went on, and everybody was asking me about the wellness retreat. Well, the wellness retreat goddess, Miss Latise. Latise, please give us an introduction to who you are, what you stand for. Tell them what your background is.
Yes.
Tell them how you got to be such a woman of women.
God. First of all, thank you for inviting me into this vibe. Y'all, let me just say, I walked into a vibe. This is such a beautiful space. So thank you for allowing me to share your space and to share with your viewers today. I'm Latise Egeston. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm in private practice. In Tucker, but kind of everywhere because I do telehealth for a lot of folks. And I've been a therapist for over, 30 years. I cannot believe I'm saying that. That's a long time.
30 years look good on you.
Oh, God bless your heart.
It looks good on
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. On you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I have a heart for people in general. Okay. I think what drew me to the field is that I just am a helper. I'm a servant, right? I just have a heart for people to live well, to be well. My family loves to tell this story. When I was about, 3 or 4, both my grandfathers were kind of arguing, real strong, gruff personalities, and they were arguing, and they said, I came in and I said, stop it. Granddaddies, every people must love every people.
Oh, that's right. Every people must love every people. I need you to get a shirt that says every people must love every people.
See, I love with statements. So I do need to do that, but that's always been my heart. Every people must love every people, but in order to love people, guess what? You got to love yourself.
Oh, wow.
Right? We know that, right?
Interesting.
And so sometimes we think we do. But we're not living in that way that shows love to ourselves. And so I have the privilege, and I see it as that, a privilege to walk with people, not just through crisis. A lot of times people think you have to be in crises to come to therapy, but you don't. Therapists need therapists. It's helpful for all of us to have this. We go to the physical doctor.
That's right.
Because they can see things we can't see.
That's right.
So a therapist helps us to identify those relational, emotional, behavioral, social, even pieces. There may be some things we can't see that we just want it to be better. And so I count it a privilege to do that. And I have the opportunity to walk with people as they're finding the love for themselves. So every people can love every people, but you can love yourself and be well.
Right. As you were talking, it really made me think like I am in this phase myself as an individual where I have a deep love for myself. I have deep compassion and grace for myself and others, but I am definitely at the beginning of a new level of life. And I have really been contemplating about the importance of, I think I need a therapist to walk through this with me. And I've been in therapy before. I've had a counselor. I've been to counseling several times, so I have no problem going to counseling. And I don't think that I need to go just when something is wrong. Because you're right, nothing is wrong, like big right now that's truly affecting me in a negative way.
Right.
But something just says, I need a hand, I need an ear. And I have great friends, I have great relationships. But just someone who can sit on the outside from a educated perspective in mental health to help me walk through that journey. And so I'm always encouraging women, men, boys, girls, seek therapy, seek support. Like I go to doctor maybe for anything. And like when you go, you find out not only what's wrong, but what's right and how you can get right faster.
I love
you know what I mean?
How you can get right fast.
How can get right
that's
faster.
good. Yeah.
So even getting right faster may help me reach my goals faster. It may help me become the person that I want to become faster.
Yeah.
When I can sit and analyze not only what I'm thinking, but how and why I think what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just think that's really important. So we're going to start off a place that people who've been listening, they have a point of contact, which is me doing the wellness retreat. So tell me about how you started Mosaic Retreats.
Yes.
And what that is, why you do it. And I want to know, like, what is it that you want women to receive from these retreats?
So and really, it is God breathed, God ordained.
Okay.
In my practice, and I have a very diverse practice. I work with men, women, various cultural groups and racial groups.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the women I see are women of color.
Mm-hmm.
And what I am finding, and I'm in that group of professional women who are doing it all. Society encourages us to do it all, right? There is actually an actual syndrome called Superwoman syndrome.
Oh,
that's the thing. Like we say that, I'm not your superwoman. Can I sing on the thing?
Let me tell you, I just sang it on the last recording I did. They ain't even seen it yet.
What? Okay.
So Halima does the Message Reveal podcast.
Okay.
And the question was, what is a song that you sang as a child that you didn't know the meaning until you got older? I said Superwoman Karen White. I thought that was a love song.
How about that?
Sing Superwoman.
Wow.
That's what we think.
How about that? I mean, but that is an actual syndrome.
Yes.
And basically, it's kind of what it says, where we have these ideas that we can do all these things, and we can be all these things to all these people. Mm-hmm. And it needs to really look amazing and be amazing. And there's no room for error. Mm-hmm. And all of these absolutely unrealistic, self-depleting expectations and consequences for staying stuck in that space.
Right.
And so I've seen that. I have been that. And I'm going to be transparent. This is a sacred, safe space, right?
But it is.
We're still working on it, right? Because I have a heart for people. Yes, and people are always in need.
Yes, ma'am.
So if there's a need that comes up, I keep a toolbox.
Yes, ma'am.
And I goes to fix it. And everything is not for me to fix. And some things are not really fixable. So what I've seen over the years is the consequences of that and what that does to us. And it was laid on my heart, what space do we have that we can show up and we can be authentically who we are in every way, not what is comfortable for people to see, but authentically who we are.
Right.
And you can just be loved on. You can just be affirmed. You can just be poured into. What spaces do we have like that?
Yes.
I couldn't come up with any.
So you created this thing.
So God told me, let's go away. Don't do it here because, we're too close to the house. That's never, we have to have a change of scenery. There's so much power in changes of scenery.
Right.
So our travel is so important.
Yes,
so being able to be away, and we have an amazing chef that comes. You can attest to that.
Let me tell y'all about that food.
Woo! Yeah. Miss Rachel, she's our chef, and she comes, she travels, she's a great cook, and she's very thoughtful and intentional, but there is a level of love and ministry. Yes. And that's what does it. That's what That's what does it. And so she's very aligned. And all my speakers, we have a yoga instructor who's lovely. Our Zen Jen, we love our Zen Jen.
It was amazing.
Yeah, she's got, again, she just has a heart for people to settle themselves in those spaces of, not just stretching your body, but stretching your mind in those yoga spaces that a lot of us don't necessarily practice. And my speakers who shift from year to year, they are all very much aligned with that. And so it's just an opportunity to come actually like for real unplug. You ain't got to think about nothing but just receiving. And you can meet some incredible people, but you can also be with your people, your friends.
That's right.
And you can have some fun and laugh. We do have a good time. But it's also reflective. And so that's how it started. And this is I cannot believe this is our 6th year. We're going into our 7th retreat.
All right. I was on 6, y'all.
You was on 6.
I was on 6. And going to be there for 7, 8, 9, 10,
I
11,
love,
13,
come on.
15.
I love it, baby. And that is the prayer. We just keep it going. So I'm really just, I'm so humble. Really, God, like you're doing all of this. It's just, I really can't even describe. I'm just so excited and thrilled.
Oh my gosh. I am so thankful. When someone invites you to this retreat, know that they love you. My friend Andrea invited me for a couple of years. And last year, I couldn't go because I was traveling with my daughter. But when she said, okay, this is the weekend, I said, okay, Andrea, I'm booking it. I didn't even know when I was booking it. I just know she loved me and I trust her as a friend.
Yes.
And so I booked it. And I remember seeing one of the flyers right before, and it said, no work or leave your computers at home or something like that, to the mention of
a work-free zone.
A work-free zone. We're coming to rest. And I remember even looking at the picture of the computer saying work-free zone. I remember my spirit resting in that.
Wow.
Knowing that I would have some downtime. And it was so important and so special. And the exercises to sit and reflect, I'm still reflecting on those things. They have stayed with me. My box that I got from Tanika, it stayed with me. It sits next to my
she's
bed.
wonderful.
Okay.
Tanika Du Evans, incredible therapist, good friend. She's amazing. So grateful for her in my life.
Like
one of our presenters.
They sit with me. When you asked the question when we first got there, what are you bringing to the table?
And
what do you want to take? What do you need?
Yeah.
I knew what I was bringing. I'm bringing the love of God.
Yeah.
I needed momentum.
Yes.
And that momentum just continued throughout the entire retreat. And now it's continuing here. And this is what the momentum looks like. So I just thank you for standing for women, standing with me as a woman, standing with those I know and don't know, because the energy one person puts out affects the whole.
Oh my God. Yeah,
it really affects the whole.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate that. And you said something a few seconds ago. You said everything can't be fixed.
Yeah.
Talk about everything can't be fixed. What do we do when something can't be fixed?
Yeah. So, we were talking earlier about mindset. And we talked about that at the retreat, mindset, and how important that is. And I think sometimes it's really challenging when there is an issue, and often, particularly if it is our experience that people are looking to us to be the fixer.
Okay.
And that's the role we've kind of taken on. And because typically we want to do all things well, because there's no room for error.
Right.
If there's something that comes up and we can't fix it, and fix it means so many different things, right?
Okay.
Depends on the circumstances and the situation. But when we cannot fix it, and oftentimes that means the outcome just doesn't look like we want it to look.
Okay.
Oftentimes.
Okay.
And so when we are in that space, it is just sometimes hard to let it go and accept.
Okay.
And so really having the mindset, is this for me to be engaged at the level I'm engaged?
Okay.
Let's start there.
Okay.
Is this even for me?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, particularly with our children, especially older children and mainly adult children, we're still parents, we're still mamas, and we show up how we show up. But it's hard to sometimes know, you know what? My role is different.
Okay.
And I might get in the way of something they need for themselves if I'm trying to come in with my cape and save the day. And so it may not be for me to fix. It may be for me to support.
Okay.
It may be for me to pray.
Right.
It may be for me to just be a listening ear.
Okay.
What's my role? But if I'm always rushing to try to give the answers, to try to provide the solutions and solve the problems, that may be something internally that I need to look at.
Okay.
Because it's not for me to do everything. Right. And it's important to discern what is for you.
Right.
You have jobs, I have jobs. And if you are doing everything, I don't have, not only do I not have a job to do, but I don't get what I need by doing a job.
Right.
So knowing what's for you and what's not for you.
Okay. We can't fix everything, and some things aren't for us to fix.
They're not.
Some things are for us to refer.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Absolutely.
It makes me think of, I was speaking with someone earlier and they were listening to the podcast. And on the podcast, I said, and I'm a firm believer in, I have to be whole and care for myself before I have it to get to anybody else, right?
Absolutely.
And the question was, well, how do you do that? So from a clinical standpoint, for someone who's really trying to be at whole and at peace with self and care for self so that they have it to give, what are some things that women can do from a clinical standpoint to really, truly give themselves what they need?
Right. I think the first thing, DeShonda, is really to look at what makes you feel that you're not whole. What's the what? Let's start with the what. Okay. What's happening?
Okay.
What is going on for you that's making you feel something needs to be different for me?
Okay.
And then after the what, we look at the why.
Why?
Right. Why does it need to be different for me?
Why does it need to be different?
If this is different for me, then ... I can. My life will be better. I'll be able to. What is the why? Why do I need to do this?
Okay.
And thirdly, it's the how.
Okay.
Okay, I understand what it is. I understand the why I need it. Okay, how do I do that? And you talked earlier about that you've been to therapy before and you have your girlfriends. And I love the differentiation between the two, because do not ever underestimate the power of sisterhood.
Right. Yes.
There's some things that when a group of women get together, watch out world. And you can only get that. That's why that retreat is like that, because they're women that don't even know each other. And by the end, they are coming together, and it's the power of sisterhood.
Right.
So we don't ever want to minimize that, but that's very different from a therapeutic clinical process. It is not the same thing.
Okay.
And so you you've got your circles, your sister circles,
right?
But then you've also done your therapeutic work too.
Right.
And so that has gotten you to a space. I love what you said, because, I know who I am. I'm confident. I'm, secure in who I am. You listed quite a few things. And when you said it, I believed you. I believed every word you said. I want to suggest that that's because you've done a lot of work.
I did.
So that space of doing your work and being willing to look at yourself. And so your how, we talked about the what.
Okay.
We talked about the why.
Okay.
So your how may be checking out those circles.
Okay.
And, some circles aren't very healthy.
That's
right. Right? And that's hard. So figuring out, and circles shift. It may have been great at one season in your life. You just talked about So it's a different season in your life. You're doing some things you've never done before. You're having ideas and thoughts and inspirations and that's how it should be. We should be ever evolving.
Right.
As the seasons change. You know, we should be changing in a lot of ways. So how are you doing that? And if the circles are not evolving in a way that's supporting you, that's something to consider. Okay. Therapeutic spaces, if you need that, if you need to just take better care of yourself, whatever that means for you specifically. What is the how? There's so many opportunities in your how.
Right. Whew, okay, we got to do the work.
Yeah.
So we're asking
all of us,
what is that thing?
Yeah.
Why is that thing?
Yeah.
And how?
How do we get it?
How do we get to that place of wholeness?
Yes.
Okay. Man, I wish wholeness for so many people.
Yes.
I wish wholeness.
Of course.
I think when we deal with self and the wholeness of self, we can do so much to change everything around us.
Yeah, for sure.
We can do so much to change everything around us.
Indeed.
We can do so much. So one thing I'm very big on are relationships, especially the relationships between women, the relationships between mother-daughter. For those relationships that aren't healthy, what are some things we can do to make peace or heal those relationships for future generations?
Ooh, Deshonda, that is a huge, important question. And I say that because, you know, it's really broad, but I think in a general sense, when we think about healing relationships, I think you first, again, because this is so process oriented and is so, what's the other word I'm looking for? It takes, there's steps, not necessarily in order, but relationships don't just get to a place where they need healing. That happens over time. So it doesn't typically change immediately, even though we may want it to.
Okay.
And in some instances, depending on what the need is, because if there's a point of no return in a relationship, if a line has been crossed, that we just cannot come back from. And that's a thing. I mean, that's a real thing. And I'm not necessarily talking about somebody sleeping with your husband or boyfriend or slapping you or anything major like that. But it just could be a non-negotiable. I say all the time, we have 3 boxes: a non-negotiable box, a negotiable box, and you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I can just let it go box.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So there are things that kind of may shift what was a non-negotiable.
Can you talk more about the non-negotiable box?
Sure.
And let's talk more about each of these boxes.
Sure.
Because I really think this may help somebody.
Okay, sure. I'd be happy to. So the non-negotiable box is really that box any day of the week. What I feel about that thing and what I need does not change. So in terms of relationships, because we're talking about relationships, for me, some of my absolute non-negotiables are integrity. If I'm in relationship with you, I've got to trust you. I need to feel secure in knowing that you're an integrous person and you're going to be honest with me, even when it's hard. And I can trust that. I don't have to wonder. That's a non-negotiable for me. And everybody's is different, right? And that's what's important. When you know yourself, you can do better with identifying what those non-negotiables are. Another thing for me is respect. I don't do well with blatant disrespect. Now, there's a difference when somebody messes up and they do something and, oops, my bad, it wasn't my best moment. Or so you have to discern whatever that is for you. Disrespect and respect, the list is long. So it's very, very individual. But for me, some blatant disrespectful, like you just really don't see me, don't think about me, don't care. I just cannot be in relationship.
And I'm real big when somebody F you just to say F you, but keep going. I
mean, that's, but again, that's important to know that about yourself. So there are those absolute non-negotiables. And again, that may shift at some point, but in this season, in this moment, there are just some things that I know that about myself, and I'm not compromising on that, and that's okay. Then you have a negotiable box. Those things in negotiable boxes can be like, I'm a pretty extroverted person. I love my people. As I'm getting older, I think I am, like in my quiet space. And as I'm so busy, I like my quiet space. But then there are those, I'm just very extroverted. My husband is not. People would be very surprised to hear that because he's easy to engage. He's a writer for TV and film, so he does a lot of comedy. He's done stand-up comedy, so he's funny, So people think though he's extra because he takes up a room. He would so rather be at that house. So one of my negotiables is, there's sometimes I'm gonna just be up here with you. Okay. I'm gonna be up here with you though. All right, I'm gonna do that. Or, other things like some financial pieces. I might not fully be on board with this. Certain girlfriends who may want to always do this one thing. And it's like, okay, now we got to do that again. But that's their thing. That's what they like. So those are more, if it could be the way I want it, great. But I can move and flex in that. And most things, that's not true. Many things will go in a negotiable box. Let it go box. It ain't that deep box. You can call it so many things in the grand scheme of things. Is it really that deep, sis box? Whatever. But those are the things when you really step back and you really look at it. Is it really, really that important?
How can we make our let it go box, it ain't that deep box, get bigger? Because I think for some people, that's the smallest box they have, but that box need to grow because so many things, like I'm just saying, you still gonna wake up tomorrow and ain't nobody else paying your light bill. You ain't sleeping with that person. Like, why does it matter? I'm just saying.
Why does it matter? I think sometimes we have a hard time accepting people for who they just are. And we want them to be who we want them to be. So we get annoyed with them when they just who they've been and who they continue to be. And so we get kind of up in arms about things that is it really helpful for you? I don't, are you familiar with the THINK acronym?
No.
Think.
No.
This is before you think, and I like to add before you speak, before you think, before you act. Think. T, is it truthful? Is it the truth? Sometimes we come up with stuff, it ain't really true. You done made all that up. It's really not true. Or it's maybe half of the truth. It's not all the truth. H, is it helpful? Is your staying stuck in this way of thinking, in this form of how you think about socks always being in the middle floor? Yeah, it's annoying. It ain't gonna never make sense to you why when socks is in that floor. And I'm not the only one that sees socks. I wear glasses. I probably may have better, but don't nobody else see those socks. I'm sick of them socks. But is it helpful to turn that into something else? If you love me, you pick up them socks. Because we say those kind of things.
You don't care about what I care about.
Right. And that's not necessarily what that is, right? So is it helpful? How is this helpful to me to keep thinking, behaving, responding in this way? I, is it inspiring? What does it inspire? Does it inspire y'all to be better? Does it inspire you to be better? Does it inspire for you to be stressed out over something that really isn't significant? N, is it necessary? Is this really a necessary, helpful focus for you at this stage right now? Really challenge yourself to think why. And K, is it kind? Is it kind to other people? But is it kind to you? Is it kind? Think. Truthful, helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind. And so when we can just take a minute and stop and think about those things, I believe you're going to have more in that let it go box.
Okay. We're going to think.
That's what I think.
All right, ladies, take the notes. If you're driving, you either got to pull over and write it down, or you got to listen again and write it down. Get it to memory, get it to heart, get it to your mind. From your hand to your heart to your mind.
Hand to heart to mind.
Let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And what do you think some things we can do to really help women move forward mentally?
Really making a commitment to yourself about what you want for yourself. And it really starts there. The Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
The wisdom of the word tells us that that's where it starts. Any change you got to make. There's an elder at the church, and she one of them real old school elders that like don't mince nobody's words and just, she love you, but you got to look for the love, because she's so like,
she gonna tell you, baby, no filter.
None.
That comes with age.
Yeah. But yeah, no filter. And we would fast, and people like, you know what? I can't. And she said, you know what, daughter of God, you've got to make up your mind. Ooh. That's the bottom line. All that other stuff you talking about ain't got nothing to do with nothing. You got to have a made up mind. And I'm not talking about that with you no more, because your mind is not made up.
Oh, wow. Get me together, mama.
It ain't even her. It ain't even her. And so when it comes to that, because a lot of times, what we do, Deshonda, we feel like we need to know the how. We jump to recognizing what the issue is. And because we don't know the how, we kind of find ourselves getting stuck or not believing because we can't see it or we don't know what it looks like. So it's hard to imagine us being on the other side of it. But the bottom line is once we kind of make a decision, you know what? I really want this to be different. There's so much power in the acknowledgement.
Okay.
Of just, you know what? I'm not going to be stuck.
And then after that, what comes after that?
Yeah, after that.
Because we might know, but what we doing? What we going?
Well, I think the other component, after you really make up your mind, that I'm not going to be stuck. Well, of course, now I'm going to recommend if you're not working with a therapist, because that's the therapist's job, is help you identify not only why you're stuck, but methods to get unstuck. So that certainly is an absolute recommendation. But I do think very simplistically, if you want something different, you've got to do something different. So if you want to be unstuck, begin to look at what is the what? What aspect are you stuck in? What's happening that's keeping you or has gotten you stuck? And then the why. What do I need to do something different? Because sometimes it's not even a big piece. I think sometimes it feels big because being stuck is so uncomfortable.
Right.
I broke my foot years ago and I had to wear an awful boot, and I am a mover and a shaker. And it altered. It was just a boot I could move around when I was on crutches, but it altered what I did because it was impactful to my mobility. And so it regulated some of the things that I want to run by the store after work, but I just didn't feel like lugging that thing around. It was heavy. I was tired. So it felt like a hindrance to me. And one of the things I would recommend, a lot of times it is so vital to write things down. write the vision, make it plain.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when we can write things, it's a different level of accountability because we can go back and really see ourselves in that moment. Yeah, you can type it in, you know, I know we're big in typing things into our devices, but there is something about your own individual, unique written word that makes a big difference. So I would recommend too, right now, what is it that why are you stuck? What makes you stuck? Why do you want it to be different? And then what can you do different to get unstuck? Because it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
But a lot of times we stuck because we keep ourselves.
Right. It can be hard to get unstuck, but once you become unstuck, you are free, baby.
And I think because it's so hard, we think that what it takes to get unstuck is hard.
Yeah. It's hard. It's harder mentally than it is in real life actuality. Absolutely.
Because we made up a narrative. We've created a narrative about what it's about. And it may be hard. I'm not suggesting that it won't be. Right. It might be. But it may not be what you think it is. And in your words, what's on the other side is better than you can imagine.
Right. The shadow of the big bad wolf can be bigger than the big bad
every time. That's what shadows do. That's what shadows do. But you know what's also interesting about that? With a shadow, it's only dependent on how you're hit, how the lighting is hitting.
Ooh, say it.
That's how a shadow works.
Say it.
If you move, there's no shadow. There's no shadow. If you move, there's no shadow.
This is what happened when women talk. This is what happened when women talk.
That's right. And not only, even if you don't move, eventually the lighting will shift. Even if you don't.
Yes.
Now you're at the mercy of however long it takes to shift.
Yes.
But if you move, there will not be a shadow.
Yes. Okay. I get it. You see, I'm taking this in.
I see it.
You give me something, I'm gonna take it in and I'm gonna deal with it and work on it.
And that just gave to me. I've never thought of it like that, but because it is bigger, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, in your practice, what are some of the areas that you specialize in or focus on? And when identifying those areas, can you share some symptoms of those particular issues?
Okay.
And what participating with a counselor or a therapist can do for those issues.
Okay.
So that people can be more self-aware of. I remember before I had surgery, like I was really, really tired. I thought I was really, really tired because I do too much, but I was really tired because I had an issue going on with my heart.
Wow.
So what are some of those symptoms that people can be looking for and like, you know what, this really isn't normal.
Right.
There's something, it could be a little bit better. So what are some of those areas?
So one of the things that I see a lot of are mood disorders with depression and anxiety. You know, depression can look, a lot of times we think depression looks like suicidal ideation and thoughts and self-harming or can't get out of bed, not functioning. And certainly it can look like those things. But more than anything else, it's regular functioning people who get up and go to work every day, who really are easy to engage and look pretty happy. But overall, their mood is they're just sad. And they're sad most of the time. And so I like to give this analogy. So it's kind of like this is kind of a normal level of functioning, like a normal mood.
So for our listeners,
the arm is just stretched out. It's just stretched out. It's just like if you imagine a line, a line.
Okay.
And so there's a line, and that line is kind of like a regular middle of the road move. Base level move that we all have.
Okay.
Most of us, we can dip low under that line. We can go high above that line, dip low, because our moods change, right?
Right.
So we have highs and lows for all of us. For people who are depressed, they have highs and lows, but their highs don't really get above that baseline. If you can imagine that visual.
Okay.
Now, when you have bipolar disorder, that's something different. Your lows are really low and your highs are extremely high.
Okay.
So that's very different than depression.
Okay.
And so some symptoms of that is just kind of being aware, like you felt something, it was different. Clinical depression, you're going to feel that in your body. Okay. You're not going to have the energy to do things. You're losing interest in things you once had. You may not want to be engaged with people like you once were. Your sleeping may be off. Your eating may be off, more or less. You may be eating more or less. You may be sleeping a lot more or a lot less. So I just marked changes are more the symptoms of that. And anxiety is one of those things that we are going to see increase. We're already seeing it post-pandemic. Okay. Particularly in our young people. Okay. Especially in our young people, but also just in everyone. And so anxiety, there are so many different kinds of anxiety issues. And there are people that focus on just one, right? So, and it, I think even with that, anxiety is when it begins. Worry and stress is natural for all of us. Okay. And anxiety is natural for all of us. Okay. When it becomes an issue, that means your anxiety impacts how you function. Okay. So you may not be able, if you're overly emotional, panic attacks is a big way. People feel, your body is responding, your heart is racing. You may feel like you're hyperventilating, you can't breathe. That's a panic attack. You feel like you might be dying, like literally dying, and you're not. Okay. There's nothing wrong. You're just extremely overwhelmed with emotion. Okay. So that's anxiety. Okay. I say all the time that if the thought comes up, I might need to see somebody. You need to see somebody.
Just a check.
You need to see somebody. If it comes up, so how do you know when? That's when you know when. Okay. So mood disorders is one thing I specialize in. Okay. We talked about people getting stuck. Yeah. I really love working with people who just are searching and seeking for something different. All right. Maybe they know what it is, maybe they don't. Okay. But to really walk with them through identifying if they're stuck in a relationship, that's one of the things I love to provide. I do a lot of couples work with married or unmarried couples, but helping people to identify. I often say what we're going to focus on is where you are, where you've been, and where do you want to be. Okay. So that's kind of the basis. So I love to help people find that way of getting unstuck and finding ways to be well. And finally, one thing that I work with are women and or couples who are managing infertility. All right. That is something that in the Black community and in a lot of cultures, quite honestly, we don't talk a lot about. It is a lot. There are a lot of pieces. It's kind of a club that a lot of people aren't a part of, but it's a real challenging journey in ways that are specific to individuals. But there's not a lot of awareness around infertility and managing all that comes with that. And I really have a heart for working with people who are dealing with the challenges of that.
Okay. And it also seems like a club, as you were saying it, I was thinking like, not only that a lot of people may not be in it, but you may be in the club and you don't even know the person next to you is in the club because we're not even talking about what clubs we belong to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that could be a lot of different,
that could be a lot
issues and stuff like.
And I think, a lot of times people you could be in the club, but then we got certain cliques of the club, I guess you could say, that there's sections of the club, if there's secondary infertility where you've already had a child, but you are struggling to have another one. And the people who don't have any children can look like, really? You got one.
Right.
But it's still really, really difficult.
Wow.
It's still so there's so many aspects that come with that. And then infertility treatments and the grief and loss of miscarriage or stillborn children, there's so many aspects that come with that. And what that does, for a woman, but also for a man. I think we can easily be dismissive what that journey's like for men, but what that also does to a relationship or a marriage.
When it comes to men, I am a proponent of the safety and mental health and respect for men. I love women, but I'm still very respectful and very aware of the needs of men. And we have male listeners, we have women who have males in their life that they truly love and want to support. What are some ways? First, what are some issues that you're hearing from a lot of men? And what are some ways we can support those issues as women?
I love that. I think so. I want to start just by saying it's so important to embrace our power as women while still acknowledging who we are with men as a part of our lives, because we have sons, we have husbands, we have fathers, we have brothers, we have cousins, all of that. And they are also who make us who we are. And I always say I'm who I am today because of my granddaddy and my daddy. And I really am grateful for that. So one of the things that I'm saying in men, depression is just a big piece that I'm seeing with men, and that looks different in men than it does in women. Women have a tendency, and these are not absolutes. These are just kind of some generalizations that we typically see. So there are very much many exceptions to the rule. So women will have a tendency to maybe withdraw and detach, kind of shut down in places of depression. Men have a tendency to act out depression with anger. So oftentimes when we see men who are very angry and rageful, one reason for that could be depression. Absolutely.
I've never thought about that.
Absolutely. Could be other things, right? But certainly there's a high correlation with depression.
Especially when that behavior may not be typical and you're like, what?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
If it feels, you don't even know, just seems very uncharacteristic. Absolutely. So that's something I see, a good amount of that. Secondly, we see a lot of racial trauma.
Yeah.
And that could look like many things with men, young men, and and older men as well. And so we don't often use, when we think about trauma, we think about violent things or catastrophic things. We don't really think about trauma in the sense of what we've endured with racial injustice in the past. Well, always, let me be clear, but it's certainly in the past 3 to 4 years have been front and center with the just horrible things that we've witnessed, with videos of killings and how it's been managed and the political pieces that have come with that. It has just been really, really difficult for a lot of people in different ways. So I think it's always been present. It's just been certainly more magnified, I guess.
Okay. Yes.
And so just feeling, a lot of brothers just feel so unseen.
Okay.
Afraid.
Okay.
I remember I picked my son up, who at the time, I think he was 13 at the time. Picked him up from school. He was just killing some stuff. I mean, just doing some really hard, impressive things and doing great. It's like, you know what? Today we're going to go to QT. I'm going to give you some money. You go in there and you get whatever, because he likes, it's like everything at the QT.
Right.
They got it all. This is spot.
It's like a hangout spot for guys. Like, they got to stop at the QT because that's just it's part of the day, like it's just rise.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with it.
And that's not a typical, like that's a real treat. And he's old enough to go in and get it himself. I'm right there in front of the store waiting for him. And we got pulled up and he said, you know what? I'm good. It's okay. Thanks, Mom. Like, what? Who are you? And he wouldn't really tell me why. And I was really perplexed, but I wouldn't let him off the hook. And I said, what's different? Like, what is going on? He said, well, what if I go in and they think I'm stealing something?
Oh my gosh.
And it never occurred to me that he was really feeling any kind of way. And I said, well, sweetie, why would they think that? He said, well, because it happens all the time. And it just broke my heart.
Oh my gosh. That has me thinking about so many things right now. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right? And at one point, when I think it was not long after George Floyd was killed, we had been managing Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and all. And he said, why do people hate us? And I thought, this baby, who has a very diverse friend group and, is in diverse settings and has never really experienced it himself. And we've talked about it, but he was feeling
He's experienced psychologically.
And it was, this indirect trauma that he was experiencing. And so we pulled it together because my house is the house everybody's at. And during COVID, I lied to you not, we had 4 teenage boys at my house during COVID for about 2 months.
Y'all fed all of them?
All of them, every day. We ain't get no check, didn't get nobody, none of that. But you know what? But it was what it was supposed to be. But we had to have these hard conversations. But even still, after so much time has gone, people are still dealing with that trauma. Right. Men in particular.
Okay.
So those are the 2 main things, depression and racial trauma.
The awareness is up. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, my question, I hear this a lot in relationships.
Yeah.
Where couples, like the woman will want to go to therapy, but the man won't.
Yes.
For the men who have made it to therapy, what are those things? What is that word? What gets them there? How do we get more men in therapy, more men of color in therapy?
Yes.
In particular.
Yeah. Oftentimes with couples, when it's that, it is on the brink of the relationship ending. And so they don't want it to end. So I'll do it because you want me to do it. People have to want to do the work and to want to show up. And so what I appreciate is when I have that, and that is not unusual, certainly. I won't say I see that all the time, but it's not unusual. I certainly see it a good amount. And what I want them to know is, wow, I know, because we talk about it. We talk about why they are there, who decided to come. Was it mutual? Was it one person? And we talk about that. And kind of setting expectations. Because what I understand, if someone really doesn't want to be there and they don't want to do the work, we won't necessarily stop the work or stop meeting, but we're going to be honest about it because it's going to impact kind of our path and our journey. And that's okay because everybody's journey is different. But I really like to acknowledge that they came anyway.
Okay.
Just, it shows you really care about this relationship. Or if you come individually and you weren't sure, you don't know me and you were uncomfortable, but you took a risk.
Okay.
So that shows that you really care about you. Okay. So I think it's almost like the things you just don't know, you're trying out. Right. You don't know what it's going to be like. Right. You're taking a chance. And with therapy, it's not going to happen overnight for you to get what you want. So you have to kind of stick with it. And there's some hard parts, as you know, but at some point there's got to be an investment that you're willing to show up, because I have people who sometimes will even say they want to do the work, but when it gets down to the work, and this isn't just men, this is everybody, they say they want it, but they're not really willing to do what it takes to get it. Okay. So I just, no matter where it goes, I appreciate that they just showed up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So just show up.
Just show up. Just show up.
Just show up.
Like, what can you lose by just showing up?
And I often say that. Yeah. What do you lose by just showing up? It's obvious you guys are not in the best places. Okay. So what do you can only gain?
One thing I share in my accounting practice when I speak with prospective clients, I may say, it doesn't matter to me if I do it or someone else does it. Just make sure it gets done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These are the things you need to look for. Okay. These are the questions to ask.
Yes.
What are some of the questions when someone who is entertaining going to see a therapist? What are some of the questions to ask to identify if that individual is a good fit?
That is such a great question. And I will say this, I love when prospective clients call me up to just have a kind of conversation to see if we're a good fit. Okay. Some people call it interviewing a therapist or what have you. Most people don't. Okay. They don't. Some people don't even look at my website. And I get it, because sometimes people are referred. So if DeShonda said, come and see you, that's enough. That's all I need. So I get that. But I think it's worth having a conversation with a therapist. Sometimes you come in and I offer that too, to come in for about a 15-minute sit down. Sometimes phone is hard to kind of work schedules to do that. So we usually end up just having a phone conversation. But I think one thing is, again, kind of being aware, what do you want by doing this therapy? Okay. And you may not know exactly, because I ask people that all the time. And a lot of times people don't really know what they want. Okay. So that's the start. Okay. That helps us to identify. But to begin to really think about what you want and to talk to the therapist about that, but to ask them pieces about themselves, information general, how long they've been practicing, just kind of general. But I really am wondering how you could, your thoughts about if you can help me with this and what that would look like. Okay. So a lot of times people will want a therapy session there. That's not a therapy session.
Let's be clear.
But right, that we have to really kind of set that. And I get it, you're talking about these things, but you want to really just get a feel, because when you're having the conversation, really you're also just getting a feel for the person. Okay. Pretty quickly people you feel connected to.
You do.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So when I met you, it was like, yep.
Same here. Yep.
That's it.
Both. So you kind of know when there's a connection. And I would say, trust yourself. Right. Trust yourself to know what's good for you. Okay. And so whatever questions you feel are important to ask, I think it's important to get understanding about kind of how they practice and, the logistics kinds of things with kind of getting that so you know about that. But to really have an opportunity just to hear them and hear their hearts.
Okay. All right. So I asked a lot of questions, but I don't know all the questions to ask. Is there something that you want to share with the listeners that we may not have discussed that you deem important, whether it be, from a clinical perspective of therapy or just a perspective just coming from a Black woman, just anything that's on your mind?
I think I just want to encourage, if you're listening to this, that means you are investing in yourself.
All right.
Right? So you have taken the time to sit down, to put this in your ear, whatever you're doing. So that's an indication you really care about being enlightened and growing your perspective and having a different level of awareness. So what I want to suggest is to really be thoughtful as seasons are changing outside, or they're changed, and will continue to change, and as seasons are changing in our lives. What do you need to do to continue to invest in your being well?
All right.
Yeah.
And you said this before we started recording, and you just said it again, and I'm so glad you said it again.
Okay.
Being well.
Being well.
What does well look like to you?
I think we have to decide that for ourselves.
Okay.
We get to make that definition.
Yes. Okay.
And again, that definition is changing. Where we were, where you are in your 20s, if you're a student, well, with figuring out school and classes and friends and dating and what that looks like then. And as you're kind of getting out, transitioning into the world and getting some independence and finding your child, that's a whole different level of identifying your well and what that looks like. And as you're beginning to find your careers or things you enjoy and hobbies and express your creative selves, and if you're starting a family, if that's your thing, and marriage, if that's your thing, and partnering with people, if that's your thing, that's your journey, and you're finding yourself, what's your well there? And even as we're aging ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. So
walk up the steps just a little bit slower.
Slower. Yeah.
I bounced for a few. Like,
wait a minute, hold on. Let me catch it. But even in that, what do we need to be well? And at this stage in my life, I'm still figuring that out, because what it even looked like 6 months ago is different now. And there's some things that have occurred for me within this last 6 months that I'm really having to reassess and really find a space of commitment to that space of being well.
Yeah, well.
Hear me, intention and commitment.
Intention and commitment.
Of your well.
Okay. So usually my final question is, can you share something that helps set someone free to fly, right? I think you just did it without me even asking.
Yeah.
I really, really know you really just
That
did
would be it. Yeah.
without even asking. So, Latise, I thank you so much. I thank you for before. I thank you for now. I thank you for later.
Oh,
because I believe
bless your heart.
in
Thank you,
the
Deshonda.
now and the later.
Yes.
I thank you on behalf of our listeners. I know they thank you. And just continue to do the work that you do with women.
you.
And I just encourage you.
Thank you.
And I just pray your support. I'm sure we'll be partnering, doing some more things together in the future.
You know it.
And it don't even have to be professional. Like,
Yeah.
you're always welcome to come and just hang out.
Thank you, Deshonda.
I just sit here and chill in peace in my little corner of the world. And
I love
just
it.
try to love on people and help people.
Yeah.
And, when I have it to give, and when I don't, I think it's time for me to rest. Just being aware of that. So
that's good. Thank you for having me. You are just such a light, and I'm glad it shines on me. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. If anyone ever has any questions about this episode, Latise, can you please share how people can reach you? Can you share your business information that you want to share?
Sure. So I am Mosaics with an S,
Okay.
mosaicscounseling.com. Okay. MOSAICS, I believe it is counseling.
Okay.
.com. And all my information, all my social media is there. And you can reach me, and my number is there. I love texts.
Okay.
Better than anything. So there are questions or anything, hit me up there, and I'd love to connect with you in any way.
Awesome. Well, we just finished up another episode of She's Free to Fly. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen on Apple or Spotify. A lot of other podcast channels. I won't go through them all. But you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at She's Free to Fly with the number 2. And on the Instagram, the link tree is there. It'll get you to all the episodes. Leave a comment if you have any questions for Latise. Please send her a text message, but also feel free to comment, on whatever platform that you're listening on. And we definitely appreciate you. I will sign off as I always do. I pray that you receive my love. I pray that you feel God's grace, and I pray that you share it with others. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.